Hello everyone and welcome to Without a Voice by Studio Élan. Yes, they have another game. They keep pumping out these games, but this one's just published by them. It's actually developed by a company called L-Cubed. I believe that's how you say that. This is a Yuri visual novel, completely 100% free to play, and I've heard really good things about it, so let's just get right into it. My thoughts? Content warning. Please note the following games contain disturbing themes and explicit content. This is no exhaustive for complete. Please exercise caution while playing, as violence, graphic depictions of death and gore, homophobia, incestophilia, codependency. When cold, cruel destiny has thee within her grasp, thou may endeavor bravely, dear, to change thy path. But fate cares not which twisted road you choose to take. You dance atop her palm with every choice you make. Day 1. It was a morning, just like any other. The tragedy soon to unfold would affect so few people that time would swiftly forget it. For those involved, however, that morning was a maelstrom, drawing them each in, closer and closer still. It all began innocently enough, with a certain exiled princess and terrible predicament. Oh dear, I've run out of firewood. If only I'd noticed yesterday. This has caught me quite unawares. The ex-princess in question was named Cassidy, and she was the eldest child of the kingdom of Veromir. What's that you say? You've never heard of Veromir? One shouldn't be surprised. This all happened long before the universe summoned you into existence. The next shipment isn't due for a little while yet. But I cannot wait. I won't be able to cook or do laundry without a fire. So long had the princess been living in this cottage alone that she had taken to talking to herself, just to feel less lonely. Determined to gather some wood before sundown, Cassidy grabbed a hatchet and some linen, and then quitted the place. I'm liking the artwork so far. Once outside, she paused, considering for the umpteenth time whether it would be best for her to lock the door. Oh, no one will come in anyway. My brother's agents never enter, and no one else travels this deep into the wood. Convincing herself so, Cassidy turned away and headed into the forest to begin her mission. Unfortunately, her determination and willpower were short-lived. As I thought, firewood isn't just lying on the ground, just waiting to be picked up. It's not like a game. Though she'd brought the hatchet, she'd foolishly hoped she wouldn't have to use it. Faced with so many different types of trees, most of them quite large, she was unsure how to proceed. Now that I think about it, how much firewood do I usually use at once? Oh, the more I try to remember, the more addled I get. Perhaps I'll just subsist on fruits and fungus until the next crate arrives. A timely stomach grog quickly puts a stop to such plans. Cassidy lets out a sigh. For now, then, I shall return to my favorite place. It always brings me peace. That place holds some magic, I've always felt. I'm sure I shall be able to think of something once I'm there. Her spirit restored, Cassidy hefted her linen satchel a little higher. It was not long until she would be comfortable again, she thought. Why, you're as radiant as ever. There are many views to take pleasure in this forest, but this one in particular always brought her delight. Though she had lived here now for some seasons, the tree before her seemed never to change. I don't know much about wisteria. Are they meant to stay in bloom all year round? Perhaps the winters here are mild. Wisteria shall wither not when flakes of winter fall, yet all must someday perish, while heeding nature's call. But nature wields not power o'er us all. A clear wind chime voice caught Cassidy's attention. Cassidy's heart stuck in her throat as she followed the sound and caught sight of the woman just sitting there. She'd never seen just a woman who was so breathtakingly beautiful. My apologies for interrupting your poem, madame. It was only a couplet. You did not interrupt so much as improve it. Oh, well then all the better. But it is not safe for you to be so deep in the wood, tarry not. I live here. It is quite safe, I assure you. I dare say I have lived here much longer than you have. No harm has ever come to me in these woods. Perhaps our experiences merely differ. Certainly, I concede your point. Cassidy paused a long while, unsure of how to carry on the conversation. How strange, I used to make small talk with all the countries as if it were nothing. Has time truly affected me so? You say you live here? I do. I've never seen you. I'm quite sure of it. I would remember someone like you. Whereabouts do you live, if you do not mind me asking? Hardly a stone's throw away from where we now stand. A stone's throw? How can that be? I suppose she does not wish to expose where she lives to an utter stranger. That's reasonable. She seems to be quite on her guard. I envy your view of this lovely place. Do not envy me. What could that mean? How droll. Oh, where are my manners? My name is Cassidy. I too live nearby. You may call me Élan. Élan. What a lovely name. I agree. Very lovely. Besides, I was already aware that you live nearby. But how? I've seen you before, albeit from a distance. You come here often. Oh dear, I must have been making a complete fool of myself. I'm sorry that you had to witness that. Cassidy thought back to all the complaining she'd done under this tree, and all the time she'd sullied herself trying to gather fruit. There were many others, truly mortifying memories. She stared at the ground in shame. When she looked up, however, Élan was smiling. Cassidy felt her attention wane. What brings you to this place? I want to calm myself. Calm yourself? What for? What could possibly cause you distress? What a sour tone. Does she think I just daydream and laze about all day? Oh, many things. I'll have you know that at this very minute, I am on a mission that might mean the difference between life and death. Oh, and yet you dally here? What could this mission involve, pray tell? I see my presence is not wanted here. I shall return to my search forthwith. Just as she was about to turn away and leave Élan in the wisteria tree behind, Cassidy heard Élan laugh softly. It was a bewitching sound. I see I've offended my lady. No offense was meant, I can assure. Really? Truly, I would never wish to cause you pain. Tell me of your mission. I have run out of firewood. Upon hearing this, Élan stood up and dusted herself off. Allow me to be of service. Oh no, I couldn't possibly Please, this tree suffers so much every time you shed your tears and frustration upon it. What? Yet despite her abrasive words, Élan was tirelessly helpful. It was she who taught Cassidy to gather smaller bits of kindling and to use the hatchet when that proved insufficient. You wrap these smaller branches together, they shall burn just fine. I see. Oh, I'm certainly glad not to have to chop down a whole tree. I was worried about that. Yes. Once felled, a tree can never rise again. Think of them in their fruit, their branches, but spare them their roots and lifeblood. Lifeblood? Do trees have blood? This forest is quite old, you know. I wish it would stay forever this way, but man has trouble leaving things be. The disparity between Élan's indifferent expression and the biting tone of her voice made Cassidy's heart ache. She must have had a bad experience, or she must love tree. We humans are meddlesome things, aren't we? Perhaps I'm making too light of her feelings. I thought that was rather an intelligent thing to say. You truly love this forest. Yes, in fact, I feel that I am part of it, and it is part of me. How beautiful. The two continued through the forest, gathering wood and passing the time with easy conversation. As they walked leisurely, the sun began to sink. So too did the satchel of wood over Cassidy's shoulders sag. It seemed that you've gathered plenty of wood now. Surely that will be enough? Ah, you're right. The time had quite gotten away from the exiled princess. Now that their afternoon together was coming to an end, Cassidy was afraid. Afraid and hopeful, which was perhaps more dangerous still. Then, Excuse me, Miss Owen? Yes? Might we meet again? You have no idea how happy I am to meet another person living in this wood. And a woman at that. Yet the expression on Elwyn's face showed that she had, in fact, some idea. I was about to suggest the same. You might find me in this area most afternoons. I see, then, until tomorrow. Would that we meet so soon, my lady. With that, Elwyn bowed and left. Her steps make almost no sound. What a graceful woman. Not just beautiful, but elegant and smart. As she walked back to her cottage, so filled with thoughts of Elwyn was her head, that Cassidy forgot all about her fatigue and the weight of her burden. She certainly is opinionated, but she must have so much more experience living independently than I. I hope I'm not a bother to her. And with that, the once princess returned home, blissfully unaware of the roots that were this very moment grabbing hold of her heels and pulling her beneath. It is said a fool repeats his days, changing not, but expecting change. I posit these men are by routine hog-tied. They expect not and are by not satisfied. Day 2. I'm enjoying it. It's just fun. Artwork's really nice. There's a sort of melancholy one feels when closing a book for the final time. Feeling its last words wash over you as you leave its world, return to your own life. It was an ennui that Cassidy has grown used to. In her former life, she had received the best education that money and bribery might buy. Now that bright mind was left to languish, fed by nothing more than a single new book each fortnight. By now, Cassidy was in the habit of reading very slowly indeed. She shut her last tome and placed it upon the table, next to her half-written letter to her brother. I never quite sound like myself in these letters. And how do you write from a distance to one whom you never saw daily, whom you once saw daily? And how do you write anything at all when your life has grown so dull? She decided to pen a few more sentences on how moved she felt after reading the book, and how profoundly distressed she was by the ending of it. Family's important, but so too is recognizing the value of what you have before it is too late. If only the king had realized what a wonderful daughter he had. And I hope that you realize how much you are loved by me, your one and only sister. She paused, overcome by sheer feeling, and decided to keep that final bit to herself. It was too desperate for comfort, and princesses did not whinge so. No, that won't do at all. How unbecoming. With a sigh, Cassidy stared at the crackling fire. She had more than enough firewood now to last until her next shipment of it. The sight reminded her of Elwyn. I wonder what Elwyn is doing at this very moment. She could not fathom the day-to-day life of such a mysterious personage was utterly beyond her imagination. Her curiosity so engaged it was now impossible to ignore. And so the fair Cassidy resolved herself to take a walk and casually seek the other woman out. Perhaps I'll even stumble across where she lives today. Wouldn't it be exciting to surprise her at her home? Thinking nothing at all of how inconvenient, how overly forward, and how impertinent it might be, she departed immediately. Once outside, Cassidy took in a deep lungful of crisp forest air. How lovely it is today, hardly a cloud in the sky. She took measured steps into the forest, constantly scanning the area around her, on the lookout for this elusive domicile. Might Elwyn live in a cottage like mine? Oh, she's so elegant. I cannot imagine her doing housework. And again, I could hardly imagine myself doing housework not so long ago. Oh, how times change a person. Cassidy reached her beloved wisteria tree before long and eagerly drank in the sight of it. She ran up to the tree and encircled it with her arms, as if meaning to embrace it. Hello, dear tree, you're looking as lovely as ever today, though a certain someone sits not beneath your boughs this afternoon. She leaned to one side and then another, looking around the tree and into the forest to see if she might spy a window or the billowing of chimney smoke. Sadly, she could make out only more trees. I can't suppose that Élan lives in a treehouse, does she? Certainly not. Ah! Startled, Cassidy jumped her foot, catching unhappily on one of the tree's roots, sending her flailing forward. Careful! Élan's arm shot out at once, her vice-like grip snaring the once princess just in time. Élan's touch was so cold, yet her movements decisive. Cassidy's heart raced. Was she truly worried for me? It took Cassidy several moments to regain her composure. Élan, too, looked a bit shaken. Thank goodness you arrived when you did. Though, truth be told, if you hadn't startled me so, I would not have fallen. Oh, is that so? I shall endeavor to be less frightened in the future, then. Oh dear, she must have mistaken my meaning. I was only trying to cover up my embarrassment. Perhaps Élan was joking. That's not necessary. I don't understand what you mean. I certainly don't think you're frightening. Oh? Your earlier words would suggest otherwise. I was merely... Oh, never mind. How confusing you are. Still, how curious it is for us to be meeting here again. I come here often. I live nearby. What's curious about it? I'm merely saying that it's serendipitous. It must be fate. It has nothing to do with it, I assure you. Oh, but it's so much more romantic to think of it as fate. I can think of nothing less romantic than fate. Huh? Perhaps this is something not yet possible for you to understand. Don't speak as though you're much older and wiser than me. Élan laughed a little. How old are you, anyway? How old do you think? Cassidy stared at Élan, gazing deeply into her eyes as if she might find the other woman's secrets there. Older than I first thought, perhaps. A wise answer. Élan tipped her head slightly. The motion seemed to indicate a desire to walk on. Cassidy was only too happy to comply. Together, the two women strolled. Their time together was marked by companionable silence. Cassidy, never before a quiet girl, was desperate to fill it. What conversation might pique Élan's interest was unclear. He peered shyly at Élan's face and profile, so striking and noble did it seem. She has the air of an aristocrat. What could someone like she be living in this forest? Then again, am I not in the same position? Perhaps it's something she finds difficult to speak of. An icy gust of wind whistled through the clearing, causing Cassidy to shiver and rub her bare arms. The sun will be setting soon, and it will grow colder. Perhaps you should... It was then that the question Cassidy had been ruminating on over all this afternoon burst. Would you like to come to my cottage? Élan appeared quite overcome. Is that wise? Whatever do you mean? How can you extend such an invitation to one such as me, whom you hardly know? You are entirely too trusting. I'm surprised at you. Two solitary women ought to stick together out in these wilds. Besides, who else have I to invite? I sometimes feel quite lonely out here, don't you? Élan turned her head slightly and gazed into the forest behind them, as if peering at something only she could see. Loneliness, then. I see. Very well, I will take you up on your offer. Though puzzled by Élan's hesitation, Cassidy was overjoyed that her invitation had been accepted. There was a spring in her step as she led the other woman to her home. It was only in front of the cottage that Cassidy suddenly understood what an impetuous thing it was that she was doing. Is the house clean enough? He could not seem to recall when she had last swept or aired out her bedding. Is this where you live? Yes. It's charming. Thank you. I wish I could take more credit for that. The house was here long before I arrived. Even the furniture is not truly my own. Still, it suits you. Thank you. Bolstered by Élan's reaction, Cassidy finally gained the courage to follow through. She opened the door wide, gesturing for the other woman to enter. As Élan did so, with her unusual slow measured steps, Cassidy could not help but notice the other woman's feet, clearly visible in the slippers she wore. Okay, that's got a little error, but that's okay. Her toes are curled. How odd. They stayed that way even as Élan entered the house. Perhaps her manner of walking is not purely for the sake of elegance, but also necessity. Had Élan some sort of pain in her feet? Cassidy pondered on this and resolved to ask about it when the opportunity arose. It is quite spacious. You live here alone? That's right. It's not so bad. I don't have anyone to tell me what to do or where to go. I have a freedom now that I've never known before. Perhaps, but sometimes I believe that being tied down to something's easier. If you don't realize you're being strangled, it's just a pleasant, lightheaded feeling. I don't really understand. It's alright if you don't. Élan walked slowly from one part of the room to the next, her fingertips ghosting over every surface. She looked to be seeking the essence of each object, taking in every minuet flaw and deciphering its true nature. Cassidy wondered what Élan might discover about her, if only she allowed it, if only she dared. It was unbearably quiet. Just then Élan came across the book Cassidy had finished reading. Oh, that's the book my brother sent to me. I get so frightfully bored here that these books have become my sanctuary. I'm expecting a new shipment soon. Your brother? Élan was silent for a time, digesting that new information. And then her eyes fell on the half-finished letter haphazardly placed next to the book. Cassidy followed her gaze. Eyes wide, she leapt forward to snatch the letter away. How much had the other woman seen? She colored in mortification. Your brother's far away from here. Yes. Is it beautiful? The place where you once both lived? I have not once seen its equal. More beautiful than this cottage prison of yours? Cassidy could not hide her surprise at Élan's poisonous choice of words, nor could she hide her sudden tears. Excuse me? I do not appreciate your tone. I notice you do not disagree with me, however. I most decidedly do. You don't understand how much my brother cares for me. You are correct in at least one thing there. Cassidy angrily dried her tears. Élan looked out to the window. It has gotten dark. Oh my, how rude of me. I have not offered you tea or any refreshment. Oh, do not trouble yourself on my account. I must away. I did not mean to impose for so long. You are hardly an imposition. You are kind and good. Cassidy's face lit up. And kind and good things do not survive long in a world such as ours. And just as quickly as it come, the sudden rush of delight left her. Bowing her head, the other woman was out the door and gone, leaving hurt and confusion in her wake. I have to believe that Alexander loves me. If not, what will become of me? When she looked out the window to glimpse the same view that Élan had just beheld, what Cassidy saw before her was but a bleak uncertainty. Without wisdom or experience, storms shall ill-weathered be. But when you're nearby, dear one, no storms can bother me. Day 3. The exiled princess paused on the very first line of her letter. To my dear Alexander. Is that too familiar? I mean, will he dislike it? The brother of her memory was a kind boy, but rather stiff and particularly mindful of decorum. Following the events of the previous evening, Cassidy felt compelled to rewrite her half-finished letter. Not that Alexander would care. I want Alexander to see me at my best. I didn't wish to disappoint him or bore him with the minuet, my original draft. Minute, I should say. She sighed, recalling the contents of the now ripped-up pages. I pined far too much. I would never whine, of course, but my words were drawing near that. She was afraid to admit, even to herself, how much she missed her brother. With flowing eloquence, Cassidy composed her letter, sure to show her brother all the deference he was owed. She could not for a moment forget the person responsible for her comfortable lifestyle now. Please never forget your poor sister who loves you so much. Done. When Cassidy looked out the mirror, she realized the sun had started to set. Oh dear, I was revising for so long? Silly me. She folded up her letter and placed it in an envelope, sealing it with the royal wax seal she was given. Finally, she gave the friend of the envelope a kiss before addressing it to Alexander. She stood and stretched her arms above her head. I've hardly moved all day. This is no good. Cassidy walked to the front of the cottage where she normally left her letters halfway through beneath the door for an agent to collect. She had just stuffed her letter under the door when... Princess? Cassidy's blood ran cold for just a moment, yet soon she realized who was addressing her and relaxed. You surprised me, Owen. Spoke to the other woman through the half-opened window at the front of the cottage. I'm no princess, you know. Is that so? You seem like one to me. Cassidy was really not sure how to respond to that sentiment. I casually assumed I was a princess, then I realized that I still behaved in the manner of one. Lifelong habits cannot so soon be discarded, it seems. There's an envelope under the door. Oh yes! Do leave it there, it's outgoing. Outgoing? Owen paused for a long while, but said no more on the subject. May I come in? Oh, of course, I'm so sorry, I should have invited you sooner. I was so taken aback, you see. I did not mean to surprise you so. That's alright, a happy surprise. I'm so glad to see you. She opened the door and ushered Owen inside. This time, Cassie did not forget her manners. She quickly flew into the kitchen to make her guests some tea and pulled out the crackers she set aside for just such an occasion. Owen politely sipped the tea but did not touch the crackers. Suppose she's already eaten. There's a healthy glow to Lana's face. I suppose she's already eaten. She strikes me as the type who would worry about her figure. It is so late in the day already. Yes, I'm sure she's already supped and can eat no more. Cassidy endeavored not to take offense and instead greedily partook of the crackers herself. The two women talked pleasantries for some time, though it became rather apparent that Owen's attention lay elsewhere. Is everything quite alright? Why do you ask? Oh, you seem somewhat reserved. That is more than usual. That letter... You said it was outgoing. Is that the letter you wrote your brother? Oh yes, if I leave the letters there, someone will come collect it. Someone? How can that be? You do not go into town to have your mail delivered? He was at a loss as to how to explain. Cassidy herself knew that her situation was extraordinary. You see, though I live alone, I'm well taken care of. My brother provides everything. Every fortnight or so, his agents deliver food and supplies to me. Someone's around to collect my outgoing letters once or twice a day. I only ever send my brother letters, of course. I was not wrong when I said this place was like a jail. Why do you live here alone, when he clearly has enough resources to take care of you? Cassidy shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Owen's eyes seemed not to look at her so much as bore into her soul. Cassidy felt judged and deemed unworthy, though she had not yet responded to Owen's inquiry. No matter how she phrased it in her head, it sounded awful. My brother put me here for my own safety. She took a deep breath. When you call me Princess Earl, you are not far off the mark. I once was a princess, though I am no longer. After my father, the king's death, I was to inherit the throne, but our barons in Parliament voted no confidence. Worse, I was then handed trumped-up charges, treason. I very well could have been executed. Instead, my younger brother intervened on my behalf. So you are. Alive. In exile. But alive. The former princess surprised herself at the depth of her own feelings, at the desperation with which she tried to convince herself that this was for the best. It's not so terrible. This cottage is lovely. It's a good thing to be among nature like this. How can you be so positive? What? You speak so fondly of your brother, when he is the one who exiled you, who left you here to rot in isolation. It's not like that, Owen. What part of what I said is false? Tell me. It's not that simple. It's not Alexander's fault. As a result of your dear Alexander's intervention, you were exiled, were you not? Who's to say he was not responsible for the unfavorable vote in the first place? Why would he do that? What would he have to gain? It is not my brother's fault. He could have let them kill me, but I am alive thanks to him. I have previously stated my belief that you are kind and good. I have now revised my opinion. You are a blind fool. As I am mute, you are blind. Altogether too blind to the selfish ways of the world. What's your meaning? It is nothing. Believe in your brother all you wish, but you cannot deny that there is a truth to what I said. Eowyn arose from her seat in one swift movement and then headed for the door. Good night, Princess. I am Princess no longer. Mock me not, I beg you. Just like that, she was gone. Disappeared into the dark. Cassidy wrapped her arms around her torso, hugging herself for comfort in the wake of Eowyn's sudden, indignant anger. Feeling comfort none, the former princess squeezed her eyes shut. Oh, Alexander, if only she knew you as I do. Then she'd understand. There is a treasure that can't be bought, no matter how long it may be sought. It is something priceless yet free. I speak, of course, of an apology. Well, you know what? I think I'm going to call it here. If you like the game, you can check it out. It's completely free, without a voice. You can get it right now on Steam. So check it out if this interests you. I'm really digging it, so it seems really cool. I'll have a link in the description below. Follow the developer on Twitter. So have a good day, everybody. And remember, if you liked the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more content. Take care.